Hey everyone, Deox Decks here with Andrew, the man of many decks.
Yeah.
Here he's profiling. He was playing chain burn, but now he turned it to more where you would call it turbo burn.
Chainless chain burn.
Chainless chain burn, basically.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and take it away, my man?
Alright, so starting off with the monsters,
Very small.
yeah, 2 Lilith. Lilith is really neat in like any burn deck like this that plays a bunch of traps, because it's just an easy normal summon. Tribute herself, you practically get any trap card out of your deck that you want. It also dodges Ash because it sets directly to the field, doesn't add the hand. I was playing 3 in a tournament today with just a regular chain burn build, but I decided to cut down to 2 because of a couple other cards I wanted to play, and you don't really want to see multiples of this card, especially with the demise. So I feel like 2 is the right number, but you definitely could play 3 if you want. Then for the other monsters, the 1 Backjack, there's a lot of builds that are playing 3, and like I feel like compared to Lilith, this has a higher ceiling. Like setting this off with Demise on end phase, and then getting to like stack the top 5 cards of your deck, and on your opponent's turn, banishing it to excavate a trap, and then set it to the field, and being able to use it the same turn, like that all sounds amazing. And like stacking a Demise for your next turn, like there's a lot of great possibilities with this card. Problem is, you don't want to see it in your opening hand. Like you don't want to see it in your opening hand with Desires. The best case scenario for this card is like seeing Demise and then drawing it off of Demise and then discarding it off end phase. Because otherwise, you're just saying this card and then hoping that your opponent crashes into it or pops it and doesn't do anything else to it to get the effect off. So I personally don't like that as much. It's a bit slow, it's a bit inconsistent, but I feel like it's okay at 1 compared to like 2 or 3. And then finally the 1 Lazian. This, unfortunately, as far as burn's concerned, is the best Time Lord we have right now until the new Time Lords come out, especially that one that burns for half your opponent's life. That one's just ridiculous. This one basically burns for 1,000 when your opponent draws for their draw phase, and then when it attacks, it shuffles the opponent's entire graveyard into the deck, which can actually be really clutch against the Sky Strikers, Brandish Maidens, Infernoids, even like Spirals as well, for how many like resources they accrue in the graveyard. So that effect can actually be pretty clutch, and I actually side a second one of it because of that. So overall, it's a pretty decent card.
In total, I believe there are 10 Time Lords.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a total of 4 monsters, and of course it has the same Time Lord effect. Can't be destroyed by battle. Can't be destroyed by card effects.
All battle damage is reduced to 0.
And it shuffles back to the deck during your next standby phase. Spell cards, Free Demise. Just got these in the mail today. They're the Sexy Secrets. Absolutely love them. Free Duality, don't really special summon this deck, so pretty obvious choice. And then the 2 Desires. That is actually it for the spells. As I said, Chainless Chain Burn, no Chain Strike, no 1 day apiece either. Yes, it is a card that draws you a card and stalls you for a turn, but it does highly conflict with the other burn cards you have, so it can really be kind of a dead card. Like you're getting that extra turn, but then you're having to keep a bunch of burn cards in hand or set them and then potentially lose them to like this, destruction. So that's why I personally don't play it. And it was really hard to make room for it too. Trap lineup. 3-dimensional wall. You could play Blazing Mirror Force as well, but the Nightmare boards are usually immune to destruction, so Dimension Wall is a lot better. This does not target the monster, does not affect the monster, it affects the player, so this even gets around something like Towers and just redirects the damage to the opponent, so that's pretty great. Free Just Desserts, burn for 5 for the amount of monsters your opponent controls. Ojama Trio, this is back at 3. Yes, this does give your opponent free tokens that they can use for link summons, but the big thing with this turbo burn build is that this puts free extra cards on your opponent's board, which adds 1,500 extra damage to Just Desserts. It adds 600 extra damage to Secret Barrel, which does 200 for each card the opponent controls on the field and in hand. And it adds 900 damage to Secret Blast, which does 300 times the amount of cards they control. So Ojama Trio just helps get you there. It helps give you more value for your burn cards. So that's why I personally like it at 3. In my regular chain burn list, I don't play it because, again, it is kind of risky with link format and stuff. But in this build that's more focused on turboing out the burn, it's really good at 3, in my opinion.
Because these days everyone just loves disgusting link boards.
Yeah. So Free Reckless Greed, really good draw card, especially if you have it in multiples, because the the skipping draw phases thing doesn't stack. So like if you activate 2, you still skip just the next 2 draw phases, not the next 4. So that's pretty solid. 3 Threatening Roar and 3 Roboku for some stalling, because you're not always going to be able to like burn your opponent to death in the first turn or 2. So you do need some things to stall you out a little bit of time. The 2 Ballots of Judgment, saw the list that was like this turbo burn list that topped the regional a few weeks ago. It was playing 3, and I mean, it is a great card, especially in tandem with Trio, but it can be dead sometimes. So I personally cut it down to 2, also for space issues. But if you can resolve this card properly, it's getting you anywhere from 2 to like 5, 6, or 7 draws. Like it's absolutely insane. And then finally, the newly semi-limited Ray of Destruction at 2. You could also play Sea Spire, it's back at 3, which I definitely would recommend for the regular Chainburn version, but with Ojama Trio in this version, it's not as good because the Trio tokens are vanilla monsters. They don't count towards the burn damage for Sea Spire, unfortunately, so that's why I don't play it. So that is the 40 card main deck. Extra deck's pretty irrelevant. I do play all 15 fusions, and there is a specific reason that you'll see here in the side deck. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and flash these real quick. Just a bunch of fusions I've had collected over the years, just randomly assorted in there. RIP Master Diamond, and yeah, so that's that.
In my opinion, speaking of Gem Knights, in my opinion, if they really want to kill the FTK, they should have hit Lapis Lazuli instead of Master Diamond.
Oh, believe me, I completely agree. I mean, it's still like it still hit the consistency enough to where you're not really going to see it top regionals a lot, if at all, but it's still definitely doable, as I've kind of tried to show at the last couple locals here with what I was running.
Yeah, but it would be completely impossible if they limited Lapis Lazuli.
I mean, not completely impossible, but it would definitely hinder it a lot, for sure. Yeah, it would be near impossible. So side deck, 2 raw Sphere Mode. You don't really use your normal summon for much, and one of the problems you have going second against like the Spiral boards and Goki boards with the Nightmare Links is that they have like these indestructible cards plus the negate, and the negate's really the biggest thing. Of course, the Kaijus conflict with your Demise and Duality. Lava Golem can kind of conflict as well, so I prefer Sphere Mode. It gets rid of more, it kind of hinders them more unless they can get it off the board. So yeah, I personally prefer the Sphere Mode.
This and Evenly Matched are really the only 2 outs I can think of to out these disgusting Spiral extra links.
Yeah, and even with Evenly Matched, I mean, if that's all you have, they can just negate it with the Tri-Gate Wizard. So you have to have like a second or something to bait out the negate. So it's still pretty disgusting. And then I do side the second Lazian, as I said, for those really graveyard heavy decks. And the 1 Metaion, kind of similar to Sphere Mode, you can just kind of use your normal summon on this, and then if they don't have a way to get to out it, at the end of the battle phase when it attacks, it just bounces all other monsters back to the hand and burns for 300 times the amount of monsters bounce. So this can clear boards. It's non-targeting, non-destruction, removal, which can be really clutch. So 2 Twin Twister, just for background heavy decks. Biggest thing to hit with this is Roll Decree. That just really shuts down this deck. So having this to counter to that can be pretty good. Dark Hole Regeki, again, going second against those big boards, potentially something to bait out negation.
And you're possibly getting rid of Denko Sekka if people play it.
Yeah. 3 Red Reboot. This is completely here to counter Red Reboot, which I did twice today. I didn't win that match, but boy, it was like some legendary shit.
You fought your heart out from the sound of it.
Yeah.
And this is excellent counter fodder against Altergeist.
Yeah.
And against Draco as well.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're playing like an ultra aggressive deck, like a spam the board OTK, FTK like deck, this is really good to counter Infinite Impermanence as well. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And then we have a few cards for the rest of the side deck that are here for the end of match procedures, which our locals are playing with currently and will be taking effect here in a few days. 2 Poison the Old Man. Basically, you just activate this in the pinch. If you draw it, gain 1200, which can be the difference between winning and losing a game. Same with Try and Guess. You basically call fusion, you have 15 fusions, so you're going to have more than your opponent, and you gain 3,000 life, and that more times than not is going to be the difference for a game if you're in time with the new end of match procedures.
Which I disagree, the procedures I disagree with, but oh well.
Oh, I do too, but you got to make the most of it, and I feel like this kind of deck, well, any burn deck in general that can just kind of do burn damage in a pinch, just chainable burn damage definitely has an advantage in that with those kind of rules. So that's why I decided to bring them back. Plus, I missed the deck. I played the deck for a long time. Haven't really picked them up for a while, and I was definitely missing them for sure.
I mean, this seems like kind of like less degenerate bullshit than the original chain burn.
I mean,
but it's still degenerate.
Yeah, and it only has the one chain strike, so that's where it's kind of debatable whether or not you even want to play the chain strike, which sounds crazy, but I mean, that's kind of how it is. And like the Accumulated Fortune, it's one of those hit or miss cards as well. When you're able to build up the chains of Chain Link 4 and draw 2, it's great. But when it's just there with a couple other cards and you're not able to build up your chains, it's completely dead. So you can see an argument either way. I'll probably do a profile on my channel as well for the regular chain burn and this, but yeah, this one's for the just kind of more of a turbo version. Yeah. So
well, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you, Andrew. I'm glad to get yet another profile off you. Yeah. As I call you, the man of many decks.
For sure.
And remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Drew Decks if you haven't already. And I'll catch you next time.